Hello, I'm Lee Yoakum with the City of Delaware, and with me is Sean Hughes, the Economic Development Director for the City of Delaware. Today we're going to talk about the City of Delaware's Economic Development Plan. Sean, we hear a lot about economic development, we hear a lot about plans. Why don't we just get right into it? What is the intent of this plan that you've created?
A good plan is about really trying to take advantage of strengths, to mitigate weaknesses, to take advantage of opportunities, whether you have or haven't, taking advantage of those, and also to combat threats if possible. So this plan really, takes that concept a step further than what we've done in the past, and really takes a true hard, good focus and analysis on several things that impact economic development and the creation of economic prosperity, which is what we're really trying to achieve. But it takes a look at our workforce, our labor force. Who are they? What type of jobs do they do now? What kind of jobs are they going to do in the future? What does our upcoming labor force look like? As well as, what other things that impact economic development, what do those look like in our city, whether it be sites, infrastructure, all those things, and it comes up with a game plan on how to actually address those in the near future and the upcoming future.
Well, you mentioned something that we hear a lot about in the City of Delaware and in the county and nationwide is labor force. Let's talk a little bit about our labor force. There seems to be a shift in the relationship between a labor force and target industries and how a city makes those mix. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Our labor force has changed dramatically in the last several years as the city's population has grown and grown and grown. We've seen a huge demographic shift, and along that with a labor force shift. We went from a very blue-collar city and labor force to being a much more white-collar, educated, trained, skilled labor force, and that's something that the whole county has seen, but our particular city has seen that as well. And we really just need to take a look at that and take as much advantage of our current labor force needs as possible. What we're seeing is 80% of our labor force is leaving the city for work every day, and we're importing 80% of what we need for our current employers. That's a lot going in and out in any given direction. So good rules of creating a sustainable local economy say you want some of those taillights, a lot of those taillights, to turn around and stay in your community in the morning. So that's caused us to really strongly look at our target industries and to be more specific and take advantage of our current labor force needs.
So more headlights, less taillights.
Yes.
is a goal. I would think that the fact that we have developed this economic development plan would be a strength of the city. And maybe that's a good segue into our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. I know a SWOT report was part of your plan. I'm going to put you on the spot here. You had identified about 40 strengths or assets for the city. Is there one that you really have an eye on as a key strength for the city of Delaware?
Quite honestly, strengths. Our number one strength is our labor force, by far. And the interesting thing about that, Lee, is what we're hearing across the country and the world right now from site consultants, folks that are doing the work of finding locations for companies, is that the number one thing that they are looking for when they come to a community now is labor. With an impending labor shortage globally, labor becomes so much more critical to a company doing its business on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of what communities are going to be doing in the near future is more community development and workforce development than what was old-fashioned economic development, becoming a good quality place to live. Because for the first time, the paradigm is shifting and companies are having to follow the labor force rather than vice versa. It used to be a company would look for the cheapest place to do business and who would give them the biggest incentives and cheap land and whatnot, and then they would go there and the labor would follow. That's no longer going to be the case. We're already seeing that now, but in the future it's going to get better or worse, however you look at it. I think we're set up well because we have a good quality of life here, but we have to continue to cultivate that good employee base and have the companies follow it. And again, that impacts our target markets, our target industries. Weaknesses, our inventory of sites and buildings. 80% of our leads that are coming through right now are for existing buildings. Our inventory
is that a business lead right there?
That was a business lead, Lee. Thank you. Most of the leads that are coming through are looking for buildings, and we simply don't have them, and that's something that is a much more difficult weakness to overcome than site preparedness, even though they're both very expensive. But I think that a lot of our efforts needs to be put into infrastructure, site certification, which is something that you're hearing more about. It's more the site consultant world is relying more on site certification to find locations because they know that everything's been done to that site before they bring their client there. All the environmentals, all that work has already been done. The utilities for the site, everything's been done. They can just speed up the process and build there because time is money, right? And if you can't find an existing building, you need someplace you can build very quickly. So we're going to have to spend a lot of time on that in the next several years together.
Delaware's history has always been our history is of making things. Our manufacturing goes back nearly as long or as old as the city is. But manufacturing is more than manufacturing when it comes to target industries that you have identified. And can you talk about some of those target industries that you're seeing success with or you're going to be focusing on for our city?
Yeah, Lee, I think the city's already kind of seen the shift, and it maybe wasn't as noticed as when you really sit there and stand back and kind of look at it. But you went from being a community that had large, very traditional manufacturers, more of your PPGs and International Paper and some of those other folks that have already left the community years ago, to being more of what I consider, and a lot of folks in my work consider to be boutique manufacturers. These are smaller shops, anywhere from 10 to 50 employees who produce much more specialized goods, products for very targeted specific customers. There's much more research and development, which research and development is another one of our target industries, folks who just do R&D. And some examples of these boutique manufacturers that already exist here, and folks that we need to do more courting and cultivation of, are Sky Climber and VMP and a Pack, companies like that they start out small and they just grow and grow and grow. Very, very sustainable job growth for a community, and it doesn't impact your community as much as if one of those shuts down and you lose 40, 50 employees. That's a lot less economic impact than if a 400 employee manufacturer decides to close shop in your community tomorrow. So we're going to do a little bit more work on that front. R&D, Engineered Material Systems is a great example of a small manufacturer that does a whole lot of research and development. There's firms that do nothing but research and development for other entities. There's a lot of opportunity for us there, especially, again, looking at our labor force right now. A lot of these folks are working in research and development. They are engineers, they're technicians, they're folks that do this every day, but they're having to go to Columbus for those jobs. Scientific and technical, information technology, banking and finance and insurance. These are all high growth job industries, and that's not just me saying that. That's Bureau of Labor Statistics and other folks that are watching our economy are saying these are the areas, these are the industries that are going to grow in the short and long term. And so far, for the most part, they've been right.
I noticed in your economic development plan, you have sort of tiered our work going forward. You start with, there's components. Out of those components, you have goals and then tactics to achieve those goals. The components, I recognized a few. Marketing, obviously, will be a big focus. But there were some other, one caught my eye was gardening in downtown. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, economic gardening is a concept that it's somewhat new to a lot of economic development practitioners and communities, and a lot of communities are actually starting to put all their efforts in there, simply because nationally 65% of your new jobs are being created by small employers, whether it be your mom and pop store on Main Street to a small EMS type facility that hires 40 people. Those are all small employers that started from someplace. Economic gardening is really about finding those entrepreneurs and giving them the tools and resources and helping them secure the financing and capital necessary to either start and grow in your community. And we've done a very good job of that in the past, and I think we're going to continue to put resources towards that so that we can continue to grow that concept.
Well, we have our plan, we have our components, we have our goals, we have our tactics. That's not enough, though. How will we know if we've been successful? What will you be looking at as indicators that this has been an effective tool?
If you keep me around for another year, just kidding. Really, it comes down to watching all the metrics that come from good economic development. Everybody looks at job creation, so we'll pay attention. How many headcount are we creating? Payroll. How much new payroll is being generated along with that income tax. But, what type of other wealth generator indicators are out there? Average wages. Are average wages in the community increasing overall? It's a really important one for us to watch. And of course, decreased unemployment. We already have a low unemployment, but continue to watch that, make sure that's staying low. And that, as our population continues to grow, that these new residents and their children are staying in our community and securing good jobs here.
Great. Well, Sean, it's a lot of work, and it looks like you got a fantastic start on it, and I'm anxious to help you out, and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Lee. Thank you very much, Council.